Signing day for 2023-2024. We were talking before, just signing day has changed so much over the years, but still it is just a huge day for all these young men and their families. And you think back to all the signing days over the years, and even back to the day that I signed a couple of years ago. It's just a special moment that these young men will never forget. Very excited about the class that we signed today. We signed a total of 20 new Pirates. 18 of those are high school signees. 2 are junior college signees. We signed 12 offensive players, 8 defensive players, and just looking a pretty good scattering of where they're from background-wise, from all over the East Coast up and down the Eastern Seaboard. So very pleased with the way the class ended up. Obviously, the class started way back in March with Trenton Cloud being our first commit, and excited that he finished it off. But along the way, putting this together throughout the summer and the fall, just feel really, really good about the quality of players. I think this is a very high-end talent class, but feel equally as good about the character and just the families that are joining us today, and just can't wait to get them here. 8 of them will be mid-year enrollees, so they will be here the first week of January, and then the rest of them will get here in either May or June. So a big day for Pirate Nation, big day for our football program, and the first key pieces added to our current roster for next year's football team. Questions?
Coach, every year you'll have other schools come after your commits. Some years you'll fall victim to that. And it seems like this year you didn't really lose anybody down the stretch despite schools coming after them. So what does it say about this class that they kind of stood together so strong and kind of withstood that interest and you guys were able to hold on to them?
Right. Well, I think, a couple of reasons for that. And, one is just a lot of hard work went into putting this class together by both our recruiting staff and our coaching staff. And I think Scott Gasper did a good job of coordinating all those efforts. And I know, just from my perspective, I probably spent more time, individually with each of these kids this year than I ever have in my career. I mean, Scott did a great job of organizing us and keeping us on task, and so I think that's one reason for keeping the class together. Another reason I think is just this class, they really bonded over the summer and going into the fall, and I think they have kept in very, very close touch. Cole Hodge really was I think a big piece of that from a leadership standpoint. I told him I was going to have to put him on payroll. He's always texting me about different players and this and that and the other, but I think he did a great job of keeping this group engaged with each other throughout the year, and they have a pretty strong bond already, even though they've never been here together.
In the recruiting process, what are some of the things you heard from the commits that they really wanted to come to East Carolina for? What were some of the standout characteristics of that?
Well, I think that some of the things that stood out are things that we all know, but I think sometimes we don't realize the impact they have on recruiting. Probably the single biggest factor that they all were very passionate about was the game day environment that we have here at East Carolina, the passion of our fan base. I'm obviously biased, but I think that Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium, when it's rocking in the fall, is the best venue in the country. And the way our fans interact with the team on game day obviously stood out to these guys. I mean, a couple of these guys have been coming here for multiple years, seeing games here. So it wasn't just something they saw this fall, but a lot from what they've seen historically here. But I think another piece is just the history of the program and some of the players that have come out of here. I think certainly everybody is seeing what JUCO and Keaton have done this year on the professional level, but I think just the performance of our players historically and currently, after leaving here was a factor also.
You mentioned Cole Hodge texting you about other players. Do you ever use a guy who's already committed to kind of help?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, I promise you, Cole's smart enough to know this. His ability on the field as a quarterback is going to be directly related to, the receivers he has, the running backs, the offensive linemen. And so, that's something that, he understood and had good relationships with those guys. But, really we've done that, every year with our signing classes. You find a couple of guys, once they get solidly committed, you try to use them to help recruit the rest of the class. And certainly I think that was part of the case this year too.
Coach, I see you signed 3 defensive guys on the line this year, 2 edge rushers and 1 kind of a tackle. I think we probably can agree that the defensive line the past couple of seasons has been probably the most complete on the team. So do you think any guys this year will have chances like J.D. Lampley or Eli Morris to come in as freshmen and get some time?
I don't know. We'll see. That's the one thing that certainly happens, and this as well as anybody. Every one of these kids thinks they're going to come in and they're going to play as a freshman, and some may. But it is very, very hard to play as a true freshman in college, especially on the line, because the size, strength, and ability of the players at this level. And I think certainly, with our returning guys up front, we have a pretty strong group right there. So we'll see. Now, I feel very, very good about this group, and I mean, all those guys, in my opinion, are going to be really, really good players when their day does come. So we'll find out.
You mentioned a little bit about keeping this group together earlier. I know these relationships are formed months, sometimes years. So I guess how pleased are you with some of your new staff additions to be able to kind of solidify those relationships and kind of work with these guys?
Well, that is always the challenge when you have staff change. For whatever reason, is they've built strong relationships with the commits, and once we start out recruiting areas, and then once a kid gets a scholarship offer from us, it becomes the coaches are recruiting their position. So that is something we had to work really, really hard with some of the staff adjustments that we've had over the last couple of months, and it's something that we had to work through. I do think that our new staff members did a great job of immediately hitting the ground running and establishing relationships, and they're still building these relationships. Some of the staff have been here a very short time right now, but they've worked very, very hard to start building positive relationships with the players and their families. I still go back to this. Another, big key was, Scott really, having me, so close with these players and families, is you still had that connection with the program through our relationship, and so I think that probably helped smooth everything over also.
Coach, Omar Lewis, local guy, coming in, you kind of told me that he put in a little extra work to make sure you could get here, and how excited are you about him being able to be a part of the Pirates? Well,
could not be more excited. Certainly Omar has grown up watching the Pirates play, being from Tarboro, and certainly Coach Craddock has done such an exceptional job there with that program, perennially competing for the state championship. It's great to get one of his players here, and Omar wanted to be here, and he never wavered on that, and he did the work he had to do to make sure he could graduate early. So he will be a mid-year enrollee. And can't wait to get him here in January. Now, once he gets in that weight room with Big John and the crew mid-January, he may be doubting some stuff, but he's going to be a big joker now. He's got a long frame.
Coach, for receivers and Yannick Smith, obviously kind of a guy who got some late interest as well. So could you touch on that group one by one, if you would?
Well, I think, the quality there is really what stands out, and they're all a little bit different. I wish the Shrine Bowl hadn't got so much publicity last weekend because Yannick did some great things in that game. But all four we expect to be really, really good players for us. We'll start with Yannick. Somerville High School, they were one of the top teams in the state of South Carolina this year. Made it to, I think, the quarterfinals before being knocked off. Yannick is a multi-sport athlete, player of the year in the state of South Carolina in basketball last year, and first team All-State this year in football. And so I just think he's got such a high ceiling. Staying down there in South Carolina, J5, Jaron Waiters, slot receiver out of Wilson, came to camp last summer, ran low 4.5s on grass out there on a hot afternoon. Was very, very impressive, and just a guy that has a lot of juice there at that slot position. And we talked about Trenton a little bit earlier, 4-time all-conference player. I mean, that stands out. And he was at a school where traditionally they have been up and down in football, and he didn't have a ton of college guys around him like some of the other schools in that area do, but it was a huge impact to help his team win, and that really stood out. Just how getting double covered a lot of times, and still making plays, and then obviously Dylan Lorick from Lipscomb Academy in Nashville, Tennessee, very, very explosive athlete, another multi-sport athlete, being a basketball player as well. Dylan has good size, but really has explosion and acceleration. Dad played at the University of South Carolina, so has some good genes there. But he's a very exciting player to watch.
Earlier you said you had 8 mid-years coming in. Could you just tell us, is there kind of a way you kind of decide who comes in earlier, or how many offensive guys or how many defensive guys come in early?
Well, I wish we could get them all in here early. I mean, that'd be ideal, and all of them wanted to, but it just depends on their high school, and some schools don't allow you to graduate mid-year, some do. Really, to graduate mid-year, you got to start planning it out, pretty early in your high school career to make sure you got the credits and everything lined up. So we want any kid we can get, because get them here in January, get them lifting, go through spring practice, get their feet on the ground academically. It just prepares them to be set up to have a really successful freshman year. So the guys that are going mid-year, we mentioned Omar T.J. Engelman, the running back from Ohio, kind of Georgia. Jason Tarpey, transferred junior college offensive lineman from Lackawanna. Katie Small, transfer offensive lineman out of Alabama. Shy Thompson, our other Shrine Bowl guy. Sam Riddy from Charleston, South Carolina, big defensive end. J5, we mentioned him already, slot receiver, and KJ Merrill. So those guys will be our mid-year guys.
Coach, with Nick, he wants to play baseball and football in college.
Yep.
So I talked to the baseball staff. They say he can hit it a long way. Of course, you guys like how he can block and catch.
Yeah.
So what do you think that dynamic will be like, and how are you trying to help him possibly achieve that?
Well, I think it's hard to do. Very few guys can play multiple sports at the college level just because of the time commitment that is required, and I think it's especially hard with football. I have had players in the past that played football and baseball. You can make it work. Both head coaches have to really do a great job of working together, which I'm very confident Cliff and I'll do fine handling that. And it's something I do think that helped with Nick in that we were open to allowing him to play baseball as well. One key thing that everybody may not understand is he's a football scholarship player. football pays the scholarship for the student athlete, and then baseball he'll play that also.
I wanted to ask about KJ too. Just where you get a linebacker with that type of speed. So,
He can run now.
just how excited are you to kind of get him in early, but also kind of see how he fits in Coach Harrell's scheme?
Well, he is you say a freak athletically. I mean, he's a 10-600 meter kid, and that's blazing. So obviously he has the ability to play sideline to sideline. He weighs about 200 pounds right now, so I do think getting him here early is going to allow us to put a little bit of weight on him. But we'll see how much he grows and develops. His dad is a big guy, so he could continue to grow. But he's a very mature kid, and just really excited to see what he's going to become.
What sort of traits do you look for in a high school lineman? I know it's a position where it's very physical, but what kind of traits do you look for?
That's probably one of the more difficult positions to identify. Obviously at this level, there's the size piece is very important. Height, wingspan, hand size, but you got to have great mobility in their hips and knees and ankles, the ability to bend, especially if you're playing tackle, and then you start getting into the other intangibles of just nastiness, work ethic, toughness. Football IQ, the offensive line requires a lot when it comes to protections and communications, so you got to have some certain traits right there. But that's why you just see a lot of guys that maybe are under recruited become some of the best linemen to ever play, and sometimes you get somebody that looks like a surefire thing, and they don't end up being quite as good. So the linemen are definitely something challenging to identify.
Anything else, Coach?
All right, thanks a lot.